Hey, what's up, Internet? I'm Dan Casey, and welcome to today's episode of Nerdist News Talks Back. It's our weekly down and dirty, over the top cage match of a talk show about all things pop culture. And thank you so much for joining us today. On today's show, there is so much in the world of TV news. I mean, new shows are coming, old shows are back from the dead, and tie ins galore. Also, are there two secret DC movies in the works? We're going to help uncover the mystery. But wait, there's more, because in honor of the 4th of July last weekend, we thought we'd test our panel's knowledge on the classic 1996 alien invasion film, Independence Day. Sequel, Independence Day Resurgence. All of this and more on today's Talks Back. Now, folks, we have a lot to discuss today. Before we dive into the hottest topics of the week, let's meet our panel. Joining us today, she is a hilarious comedian, host of El Rey Nation, and Fangoria contributor. It's Vanessa Gritton.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Next up, he is a laugh out loud hilarious comedian as well, and the host of the Mad Titan podcast and the Blurs in the Hood show. Welcome, Jay Washington.
I'm happy to be here, but you just terrified me bringing up Independence Day Resurgence.
Right.
Which should have been the title. And last but not least, she's a writer extraordinaire here at Nerdist, and you will see her this weekend hosting our exclusive Hannibal cast reunion on July 11th as part of Nerdist House 2020. It's Rosie Knight.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I am so jealous you got to talk to all of those people, including iPad Mickelson. It is going to be a blast.
It was one of the scariest moments of my life. I was sitting here to do it, but it was amazing, and I'm stoked for everyone to see it.
Well, we can't wait. And folks, it's going to be this weekend as part of Nerdist House. But let's get this show on the road, shall we? It's time for our new weekly segment that we like to call Should You Wear a Mask in Public This Week? The answer is yes. Moving on. It was a long weekend. And look, I know that time has no meaning in quarantine anymore. But before we get into the news, was there anything that you watched, played, read, or anything like that you want to highlight before we get into things too far?
I have rewatched Django an ungodly amount of times, and I don't know why. I don't know why. It's humor in the seriousness if you actually pay attention to it, because you have to make some level of humor to deal with the gravitas of everything. And then I told my homie, I was like, yeah, man, I watched Django and then I put it on to go to sleep. He was like, out of all the things you could play to fall asleep to, you picked Django? I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, slave movies. I was like, I don't know why either.
I mean, you've got the epic score. You have I can see how you could just like kind of fall asleep to the background noise of just Jamie Foxx wreaking havoc on Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, all that pancake syrup splattering everywhere.
Yes. Oh, that movie does make me want cake.
You want white cake, yes.
Vanessa?
Yeah, actually, I've been really into my Oculus Rift as of lately, because it's where I can go literally anywhere when I can't at all. But in prep for the Psychonauts sequel that we're finally getting, I played the Oculus Rift's Psychonauts Rhombus of Ruin. It is so dope. You get to be Magneto with essentially. Like, it manages to integrate like the VR controls with like the psychic powers in the game to where it's really instinctual and like organic with your own movements. So you get really into it. Like, at one point I was sitting in my living room and I like tried to make my remote come towards me and I'm like, wait, nope, not in that world anymore.
Wait, so do you have which version of the Rift do you have? Do you have the Quest, or is it the one that you hook up to the computer?
I actually have the Quest and the one that hooks up to the computer.
Nice.
Yeah, my boyfriend and I both have our own VR headsets for when we want to like go somewhere on Google Earth and pretend we're in Thailand or something.
Wow. Now I feel like an idiot just putting my face very close to the monitor. That's awesome. Rosie, what about you?
I watched this series Betty that I hadn't watched, which is like based off this movie called Skate Kitchen, and it's about an all-girl skate crew in New York, and it was just like, it's easily the best show I've seen all year. Before that, my best show of the year was like Babysitter's Club, which is actually really, really good. But no, Betty is so amazing. It's super thoughtful. It's like joyous, and it's full of really amazing Black skaters who are women and are just generally wonderful, and it's super cool.
That's awesome. And if you haven't seen Skate Kitchen, highly recommend checking out that doc. It dropped at Sundance a while back, and just super cool. Crystal Moselle and them. Just I got to meet some of the like skaters involved, and it took me back because I hadn't met like I grew up with a bunch of people that were super into skateboarding, and I forgot what a unique personality type that is. And they were just hilarious people juxtaposed with the like glitz and glamour of like Sundance nonsense. So really, really awesome people. Also, check out What's Up Rockers if you want an awesome LA.
I love What's Up Rockers.
I'm just here.
You've got your homework for next time.
Yeah, I know, right?
Let's see. As for myself, I finally watched The Raid 2 recently.
Yes!
The best movies ever.
That was my reaction the entire time. That movie kicks so much ass. It is unreal. If you haven't seen it yet, folks out there, highly recommend it. I just had a alternating smile and like jaw agape in horror at what I was witnessing, but it was just so freaking good.
You'll never touch a hammer the same way ever again.
No, I was hanging a picture yesterday and I was like, oh no.
I'm dangerous.
Sense memory. Anyway, let's move on to the actual stories of the week. So over the weekend, Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, and Snyder Cut director Zack Snyder took to the Vero social media platform to answer fan questions. And one question that Snyder answered was about Jared Leto's take on the Joker in Suicide Squad. And the question wasn't why, it was if there were plans to integrate him alongside Batfleck. And while the director was mum on what he would have done with Leto's Joker, he did admit that I always loved him in that part. Now, considering that Ben Affleck's Batman did briefly appear in Suicide Squad and how they teased Joker's relationship with Batfleck in Batman v Superman, is this something that you would have wanted to see had they kept going down that route? Jay, let's start with you.
Oh, thank you. Great. Something I'm very passionate about. No, because I did not like the Grand Theft Auto version of the Joker that Jared Leto was. I get he was the gangster version. I just don't think that Joker would have fit in with the rest of that iteration of the DCEU's characters. You know what I'm saying? Like you want a Joker that looks like the reason he's torturing them. It's especially when it comes to Batman, they're almost the same height minus the size and things like that. And Jared Leto was Tom Cruise light, and you got Ben Affleck, who's a massive man. He's 6'4" and put on all that muscle for the role. So I don't know. No.
All right, Rosie, what do you think?
I 100% back that. Just no. And I have very strong feelings. I don't like that Joker. I think it's really badly thought out, and it was a general mistake. I also don't think we got to see that Joker. I'm sure there was more to it, but it felt empty and kind of gimmicky. It's also dodgy because Aya's now doing a new movie that's about like Cholo culture and kind of saying that he has a right to do it because he grew up around it. So it has like these other layers to it. Also, I have a question for Zack Snyder, which is like, why does he use Vero so much? And what is Vero? Like, I'm always having to report that. What's Vero?
He has to have stock in that because he's
he's
the only person I've ever heard of that says I'm on Vero. Like everybody jumped on it first when it first started, and everybody was like, I use all of this on everything else. And now Zack Snyder's like, let's have a conversation on Vero. Like, if you don't stop talking,
he's like, oh, here's an exclusive picture of Darkseid on Vero. It's like, help me.
I have a feeling that Vero is going to be an integral plot point in the Snyder Cut. When that movie drops.
I only watched the second half on Vero.
Yes, he's going to create a boom tube to Earth using Vero technology, and it's all going to come together. It's just a matter of time.
I don't want to even think about this thing that's happening.
Don't worry, it's not coming out till 2021. We have plenty of time to worry about it until then.
Yep.
But Vanessa, what did you think? What was your take on Jared Leto's version of the Joker? Were you a fan? Would you like to see him and Ben Affleck hang out together on screen?
I mean, just echoing what everyone else has said, the thing I've been asking myself the most is why the artistic choice to give the Joker an underbite. Don't know. Why that? Why is that like an important personality trait we bring to the Joker? I don't know. But like there are a lot of bizarre choices made, and it's not a Joker that lives in the same universe as the Ben Affleck Batman, similar to like what Jay said, where like that's a very like exhausted, tired Bruce that's had several like toe-to-toe runs, and this feels like a very new TikTok Joker.
Remember that laugh?
Yeah.
Like if you don't.
The timeline
it feels like they haven't. Yeah, it feels like they've never met each other.
Yeah, maybe like their scene is about how Batman is struggling to connect with millennial and Zoomer culture, and he just can't. But then again, Jared Leto's like almost 50 years old, so what do I know?
I do
It's
remember that there was like a rumor. Do you remember he had like a Robin tattoo and people were like, maybe he's Jason Todd and that's why he's so young? And it's like,
yeah.
I don't, none of that stuff is really my vision for how I want DC to go. But I'm like, if they were going to do it, it could have been cool to do something comic booky or weird. But even then, Jason Todd deserves better
Well,
than
you
that.
said weird, and Jared Leto is the epitome of weird. So that's what I just like we give every artist who steps into that role of the Joker, we give them a shot. Let's just call it what it is. We give them a
Yeah.
shot. And what you do with that shot is how we'll look at you going forward. And with Jared Leto's, when you started hearing he was sending dead rats to Will Smith, Viola Davis, Margot Robbie, you were like, hey, bro, hey, fam, this ain't that Joker. Like, we ain't never heard of the Joker sending dead rats. You could have just had a card. You know what I'm saying? Just a
Confetti.
Yeah,
confetti.
just a little flag that says "bang." You don't have to.
Right.
overdo it.
First of all, where are you collecting dead rats from? Like, did nobody ever answer that? Like, is he
Oh.
just sitting around with a trap? Like, this one's gonna be for Will. This cute one's for Viola. Like, no.
It's the rest of the members of 30 Seconds to Mars when they're not on tour.
Which is all the time because he's
Yeah.
filming movies.
All right, staying in the realm of DC movie news, we know that movies like Wonder Woman 1984 are on the way at some point, but could there be not just one, but two mysterious secret DC movies that are in the works? Because on Thursday, the folks over at The Direct uncovered evidence that during DC's upcoming Fandom event on August 22nd, fans can submit questions about a wide range of topics. And two of those topics are aptly titled Secret Movie 1 and Secret Movie 2. Now, the internet immediately put on their nth metal tinfoil hats to begin feverishly speculating about what these mystery movies could be. But now it's our turn. We're going to freely admit that, first of all, these secret movies are probably not as exciting as they are in our minds. It's not like Mixie Pidlick 3D like I wish it was. They're probably something that was already announced, like Ava DuVernay's New Gods or a DC animated film. But maybe, just maybe, it is something that's completely new. And on Nerdist.com, our staff writer Eric Diaz broke down the likeliest options in order of probability, including things like New Gods, Green Lantern Corps, Batgirl, and even a few wild cards as well. So my first question for you folks is, what do you make of this news, and what do you think the movies in question actually could be? Vanessa, let's start with you.
I think whenever it comes to stuff like this and we immediately go to speculation, it's almost always Occam's razor. It's almost always the easiest, simplest, like most obvious thing where it's something that's probably already down the pipeline. Especially when it comes to like superhero movie news for the last like decade or so. Anytime we're sitting there and really trying to like speculate, it's always the first answer.
Yeah, exactly. Like nowadays, you can't even like put an idea out in a conference room without there being an article on one of the trades like Variety or Deadline or something being like X property in talks for adaptation. So I would be well and truly surprised if they were able to keep something like this a secret.
Same.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably going to be stuff that we already know about, or maybe a first look at things that were rumored. But Jay, what do you think?
I that's what I'm gonna go with. I think it's a first look because if you look at everything they've done already, DC unfortunately they don't take that chance with characters you don't really know about. They don't take that chance. The reason we're getting New Gods is because Marvel's given us the Eternals. So they're like, and let's just be realistic, they've played tit for tat with them when it comes to these movies. I think we'll get something we have to get something with New Gods. It's probably I don't mean I don't want to hear anything about the Flash movie. I want to hear nothing, nothing, because every time they say something, next thing you know, you lost everybody. And I get it. You got Christina Hobson writing it. You got Muschietti as the director, and supposedly you're locked in. Just don't, nothing with that. I think it's probably Aquaman 2 and something about Shazam 2.
Okay.
Because we keep forgetting about Shazam 2. Like, they're working on that. So we may find out either who's the villain in this case, or are they going to continue the story with Mark Strong? I think that one, I'm praying on that one. Or let's say to say, you know what, the hell with it. Give us a Swamp Thing movie. And then everybody just like, don't you do this. Don't you dare do this.
See, I definitely, like, the realist in me thinks that you're right. It's going to be these movies that we know about, but I do just like hope they have a wild card up their sleeve, especially with this partnership that they talked about with J.J. Abrams doing stuff and Bad Robot doing stuff for HBO Max, like they're doing a Justice League Dark movie. So I don't know. Let's put on our speculation hats for a moment. Rosie, in your wildest dream, what would one of these secret movies be?
It would actually be a Swamp Thing movie. I love Swamp Thing. Like, it's one of my favorite comics of all time. I think there's loads to draw from, but I think it would need to be like a cool R-rated gothic horror movie, which I don't know if they're there for. I would love to see, like Jay said, they don't really take those risks, but I would love to see, you could do a Female Furies movie if they announce something like that. We know Ava's doing New Gods, so you could have like a really cool Women Warrior movie. There's just so many cool things for them to do, but I generally think it's probably going to be Shazam 2. I think the Flashpoint / Flash movie is likely simply because of the Keaton announcement. So I think they'll probably lean into it. But when they announced Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, it was literally before they'd done anything except for taking a quote from a Frank Miller book. So there is a chance they could be announcing a solo Catwoman movie or kind of one wild card, one thing that we already know about. So there's a lot of fun stuff to pick from.
There's talk of a Bane movie maybe happening. There's talk of a Bane solo film. I just thought about that, and I'm like, well, since they're gonna do that Bane movie in the vein they did the Joker movie, which also terrifies me because I just didn't like that you called it the Joker because it wasn't the Joker. You get what I'm saying? And I understand the story and why you call it that. And so my fear is if you're going to go down that same vein with Bane, at least keep him from South America like he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
If anything, keep him from South America, have the story of, he's this child and everything. So that could be the wild card one because, again, it's been rumored and then it fell off. Think about it. Nobody started talking about it.
Yeah.
I just had a really cynical vision of Timothée Chalamet as young Bane.
Whoop, I gotta go. Yeah, that's
Why
it for
did
me
you
on
put
this.
that into the universe then?
Look, I have to use my powers for evil every so often. In the chat as well, we have Megalo Blazemon saying, I want a Terra / Geoforce movie. Give us our Earthbenders.
Oh, I would love that.
Justice League Dark. I need magic in my life, which is fitting because I also saw rumors about a Zatanna live action.
That's going to happen. That's going to happen for sure.
I would be definitely on board for. And Lok Desad says, will J.J. Abrams have a mystery mother box? The answer is, of course he will.
He's probably a mother box himself.
Yes, that's stay after the credits for that big reveal. For myself, I would love to see, I have two. One would just be a like time travel Indiana Jones style story about Hawkman with like Oscar Isaac or someone as Carter Hall. But the real one I want is give me some like really nice painterly animation, and then do Kingdom Come. But try your best to mimic that Alex Ross style of artwork.
I would lose my mind for like a very pulpy noir Constantine.
Oh my God.
And only if you cast Matt Ryan, keep Matt Ryan.
Yes.
Nobody else can be Constantine after him.
Set it in the 80s.
He's so wonderful. He loves the comics. He's talked about how he wishes he could have like a, not necessarily like the Joker, but that they would give Constantine that freedom to do a real dark noir. That would be such a big hit. He is incredible. He's a lovely guy, and that is a built-in fan base. There's no question about whether or not that's a crossover. I mean, if they don't get him for that Justice League Dark show on HBO Max that might be happening, that's immediately going to be a big issue. So anything Constantine, it needs to be Matt.
Yeah, just go full Hellblazer.
Yeah,
because that's who he is. He is Constantine. Like from what he does on Legends, what he did on the Constantine show they had, to what he's done as the voice, even in the animated movies. Like this is him. This is his character. Nobody else should have that.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly hitting the nail on the head. Like, give that room to breathe. Like, do a Hellblazer series on HBO Max, because there was like Azzarello trades back in the day. That's what got me into it, because I was like, whoa, this is in the DC universe, but way darker than I was expecting. What is this?
I love the horror aspect.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, so many amazing creators have worked on Hellblazer, you know, Mike Carey, all different kinds of incredible people, really iconic runs, and like Legends does the best it can. Like, the recent season touched on this really, really cool deep cut comic.
Oh yeah, with the Astra relationship and her mom and everything.
This little crew of like kind of faux occultists he used to hang out with who are also in a band, and that's all very deep from the comic book, but there's only so much you can do. So like you said, if you put, I mean, that Perry Mason show on HBO Max is so dark. If you could give like Constantine, who actually has a backstory and kind of a space that's already in that realm, that grim, gritty noir world, and you gave it that place to breathe, that could really be astonishing.
And let him smoke a cigarette, actually. Because they tease it every time on Legends, because of course they can't do it on that. He will actually be able to smoke a cigarette. I think that's what everybody been wanting. Like, you got cancer and you smoke. We need to
just
see
let
that.
him have that long sigh.
To make him truly edgy and dangerous, they're going to make him vape.
Oh,
Daniel, you're so evil today.
With the big old school vape, the first edition one that was
the block
hammer. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to something a little bit lighter. The galaxy far, far away. So, Fandalorians of Disney Plus's The Mandalorian should be awfully stoked to hear they're going to be getting even more Mando and Baby Yoda in novel form, which is at least more exciting than Alf in Pog form. Lucasfilm announced that the Mandalorian publishing program is going to release all ages tie-in books starting this fall. And this initiative includes things like novels, children's books, visual guides, and more. So, first of all, what do you think of this news? And are you the kind of person who likes the sort of like spin-offs of a major property? Do you like when there are books and comics and tie-in guides and all that stuff? Or do you just like to watch the movie or read a book or just do something separate? Do you like having this kind of transmedia universe, or do you like your things to kind of be in their own baskets? Rosie, let's start with you.
I love tie-in stuff. I mean, I love Star Wars, and getting into Star Wars for me, a big part of it was the expanded universe. So that's always been a part that I love. And even though the new Star Wars Disney stuff is really controversial and there's been all these talk about it, one of the things they've done really incredibly that most people agree on is the new expanded universe of the novels. And the Claudia Gray novels are so incredible. I love Lost Stars. I love Leia, Princess of Alderaan. So for me, this is very exciting, especially because The Mandalorian touched on different parts of the galaxy and kind of, this is a way of opening up these stories, I think. And that's what's so special to me about tie-in media, because you get to tell stories you wouldn't necessarily get approved by corporate if 60 million people were going to see them. But if it's like a few people in a comic shop, or hopefully, 100,000 people in a book, there's a little bit more risks that will be allowed to be taken. So I'm stoked for it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And especially if it is a high performing story, who knows, it could then turn around and then they adapt that for TV or movie or whatever medium. And it creates this nice sort of like circle of creative reciprocity, ideally. But Vanessa, what do you think?
Man, I love a tie-in universe, and that similarly to Rosie, that's also how I got into a lot of pieces of media. And I love it specifically for The Mandalorian, because everything about The Mandalorian is basically just like that great Western samurai story where you run into a lot of interesting characters. And while it feels like you don't really get enough time with them on screen because there's so much story to tell, the ability to kind of go back and see how they got to that point where they met someone on this bigger story and being able to explore that through like text or novelization is so exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I think like sometimes I want to be skeptical about it because it just feels in so many cases like a transparent cash grab. And I admit that I was especially skeptical with our cool parent company, Legendary, when they were putting out these Godzilla tie-in comics.
I read all of them.
That's the thing, like, I started reading them, and then I started talking to our esteemed colleague, Hector Navarro, and hearing his passion for them, and like then going back to read them and see how they filled in all these interesting bits of lore and how that then enhanced my viewing of the movie. It gave me an appreciation for it like I was not expecting to have, because when I take it at face value, I'm like, okay, yeah, you get the movie, then you have the chapter book, and then you have the comic book. But I'm glad I kind of put aside that like scolding mentality. Yeah. What about you, Jay?
I agree. I like the idea of expanding this universe, because for the longest, when it comes to Star Wars, everybody has been trying to get people to hear you cannot just solely focus on the Skywalker family and their legacy. This universe is so expansive, and the Mandalorian opened that. So, which means from the Mandalorian, you can even open even further parts of the universe. You can continue to expand this. Yeah, is it a cash grab? Absolutely. When the Mandalorian, because when the Mandalorian became successful and everybody was mad and started canceling their subscriptions because there was nothing to follow it up after the first season, it shows you how much people wanted it. So now you have Lucasfilm, Disney, and all them saying like, yo, we need to make sure we keep people's appetites satiated with this. And so you give them all this. And also it can potentially lead to more series going down the line, depending on what catches on and catches fire. You know what I'm saying? Like you can say, oh, well, this character from this little tie-in, people have been raving about it on social media and people have been asking about it. Now we're going to possibly develop something on it. So it can potentially lead to bigger things. It's a good thing to have. Like I said, it expands the universe.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there as well. With kind of my gripe about some of the Star Wars stuff is like, look, I know that we were telling a saga about the Skywalker family, according to what the marketing materials say on the box set.
Mm-hmm.
But if this is ostensibly an entire galaxy far, far away, there have to be more than 6 people that share the same last name that we keep the camera on. Like, I want to see that. I want to see this whole wide spectrum of stories because there is so many cool things that so many creators can do interesting storytelling with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But let's actually keep this this tie-in train going a little bit onto our next topic, because it was also announced last week that Aliens and Predators are coming to Marvel Comics. After being published by Dark Horse Comics for years and years, they have joined Star Wars with making the leap from Dark Horse to the House of Ideas. And while we've seen things like Conan integrate into the Marvel Universe with books like Savage Avengers, Conan also was at Dark Horse, then made the leap to Marvel. Is this something you want to see with the Aliens and Predators characters? Do you want to see like Predator versus Wolverine, or
Predator
like
versus Hulk?
Yes. So is
Yeah.
this something that you'd like to see them integrate into the main Marvel canon, or keep telling those kind of like Alien Predator universe stories separately?
I have a lot of feelings about this because really, like, it's, which probably surprises no one because I love horror movies and monster movies and comics, but really, like, this is less about Marvel making a choice and more about Disney buying Fox and those characters kind of reverting. So my first thing would be everyone go out and buy the Bernie Wrightson Batman versus Aliens because it's amazing, and that definitely isn't getting reprinted after this because Warner Brothers isn't going to be about that life. But I think it's cool. They've done loads of funny Predator alien stuff. You know, Archie's fought Predator and Alien.
Mhm.
I think Marvel has a lot of really amazing cosmic stuff. I would actually love to see like a real dark cosmic warlock, you know, Predator aliens kind of book. You could do really cool stuff with it. I don't know if it's a property they're going to leverage in that way. I can't see the way it fits into the Marvel landscape as it is right now. But I do think there's some interesting stuff that could happen. And there's been good Predator alien superhero comics in the past. So I'm excited to see it. I just really want them to use it to leverage to Warner Brothers Riverdale Predator alien series.
Yes.
Like, hey, you've got the money, just do it. Like Archie versus Predator is one of the funnest comics. So I've got crazy dreams for it. I don't know how it fits into the Marvel landscape as it is now though, because it's pretty like standard superheroes right now.
I do like this suggestion from Dustin Busey. I apologize if I butchered your name. Dustin Busey, however you say it, in the chat asks, what about a series about the Avengers being turned into aliens?
Ooh.
And now you could make the argument they kind of did that a little bit with the X-Men and the Brood, which are basically just the like store brand of the xenomorphs.
Yep.
But I do think you could do something super fun with that license, like something akin to Marvel Zombies, but with xenomorphs, and then maybe bring predators in there. I don't know. I think I like that idea, Dustin. I think that you can have a lot of fun with that as kind of just like a one-off, like original graphic novel type thing. But Vanessa, what do you think?
I think I was a huge Archie meets the Predator fan, and I think the reason it worked so well, the same reason like Afterlife with Archie or like Chilling Tales of Sabrina worked, is that there's a really good measure of dark storytelling with a reverence.
Mhm.
It understood what they were trying to say. It understood and was self-aware of the properties, but was never like wink at the camera at any point. It never tried to be like willfully cheeky. It was playful, irreverent, and dark, and it was a really good mix. And I feel like if they don't lean into like full like end game, oh god, we're taking on alien predator type storytelling, irreverence is really the only way to like mix those two things.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. Like one of my favorites was another Archie one where Archie meets the Punisher.
Yes.
Yes, I love that one.
Yes, you just have like the hyper violence of the Punisher invading Riverdale, and then the antagonist is a dude who looks just like Archie, just heightening the surrealism of it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that you can like, by kind of just like pulling out the rug of expectation from under you, I think you can have a lot of fun with that, especially
Yeah.
characters like predators and xenomorphs. But Jay, what do you think about this?
I want to go back to something Rosie brought up, and it was one thing: the cosmic realm. Not even just the film aspect of it. In the comic book aspect, you can bring this on the worlds with the Guardians. You can do all these different things, and it's the predators themselves. You know, now they're hunting. You have the Guardians who are like bounty hunters in a sense, hunting these creatures that they don't know what it is. They're just hired to do a job. You have the xenomorphs you can bring in any level. Again, these world-ending events, you can have them tie into Doctor Doom. You can do so many different things. You can have Stephen Strange involved in it. You can use all these different characters that bring you so much on so many different levels to if you want to bring those into the fold. And then if you want to go cinematically, you don't have to just shoehorn it. Again, Marvel has shown you they know how to tell a story. We may not always agree with all 23 movies that we got in the entire Infinity Saga, but they told a story. Even the little ones we didn't like set up a part in the story. So let's hypothetically say they decide to go phase 5 and say, well, once we do all this, we need to make something worthwhile. We need a Chitauri type level event. You now have these options for that.
Galactus, but with a chest burster.
Oh my God. Can you imagine seeing a Silver Surfer with a face hugger on him? Like he can't.
That would be
Where does he go?
He'd be so cool.
That's the post-credit scene right there.
He'd be like, "This is terrible." Well, the interesting thing on like a publishing level, not to be like too inside baseball, but like those big two companies, Marvel and DC, have used IDW to publish stuff that isn't exactly in line with their kind of ideas and their tone. So we've got the younger readers stuff, IDW for Marvel, and you know, IDW's done kind of darker stuff. So there is also a chance that they could do like solo Predator and Alien comics in that space, kind of like the Godzilla ones that were done at IDW, Godzilla in Hell, more experimental, weird stuff that still comes out under the banner of Marvel, but isn't necessarily totally tied to superheroes.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is it's funny that even though both companies have their own, like, they have What If and Elseworlds, they're like, no, this is too weird. Let's have Batman and the Ninja Turtles team up at that company instead.
Exactly.
Hey man, let me tell you something. 5 ninjas together was the greatest thing you could have seen in real.
It's so good.
5 ninjas.
Oh, incredible! It's up there with my top 5 DC movies of all time. The animated adaptation of Batman and Ninja Turtles. It's so great. They have different fighting styles. It's so good.
That rules.
Love it.
All right, let's move on from the world of comic books, aliens, and predators to our main discussion of the week. A lot has happened in the world of television recently, and we're going to break down some of the biggest news stories right now. So first of all, some unexpected animation news broke. Animated television revivals to nost you right in the alga. Last week, news broke that 2 cult animated hits are coming back to TV. Beavis and Butthead is coming to Comedy Central with Mike Judge at the helm, and my favorite, Clone High, the Lord and Miller cult classic, is coming to MTV. So both of these series are being reimagined for a new generation. What kind of changes do you think could come to these shows as a part of that revival? Jay, let's start with you.
Millennials.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, we did this Beavis and Butthead rebranding. Remember when they brought it back? When they kept talking about the Jersey, all they talked about was the Jersey Shore. Like that was it. I don't. You really are gonna have to taper the way with it, because Beavis and Butthead they wouldn't work. The old Beavis and Butthead wouldn't work today. Let's say that. So now you got to figure out a way to make those characters that we know and love still relevant to today while introducing them to new people. And I think that's the hardest part with something like that. Like, why take a chance on that? If you're gonna bring something back, Beavis and Butthead is cool. Give me Ren and Stimpy. That's what I'd rather have, because you can play with Ren and Stimpy all day. We get all these wild, yes, we have wild animations. We have a Rick and Morty. We have a Solar Opposites. We have all these different cartoons, but I don't know how you translate Beavis and Butthead, whose whole thing we're watching music videos. We don't do music videos no more. You know what I'm saying?
We're gonna be watching TikToks.
That is going to be really weird. Hey, Beavis, get on your phone. Like,
it's just Beavis and Butthead subscribe to Quibi for 3 months.
Oh, so they're the only subscribers, is what you're saying.
Yes, they are the two daily activities. Except they're on one account. No. Vanessa, what do you think about this?
So I'll be a devil's advocate for like a second. I believe that there are many moments in comedy that completely circle back to like a new generation, maybe 2-3 generations down the line. Like, for example, millennials and up, we rediscovered like slapstick and physical comedy and like older movies that were very much out of our generation because it kind of circled back to us. And I feel like that's the case with Beavis and Butthead and Gen Z, not necessarily millennials, but younger than us, Zoomers, because Beavis and Butthead and the style of humor and the style of show that Mike Judge had, and Zoomers and Gen Z kids now all have this very like willfully irrational type of humor, this very like Dadaist, bizarre type of humor that's kind of circled past millennials and gone back to Zoomers in terms of like the really, frankly, weird stuff that they're into. And I feel like it's like that inverted eyelid type, armpit fart type of humor has circled all the way back to this new generation of kids that I feel like might mesh well with Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, I think that is a good point, in that like a lot of this stuff does feel cyclical in a way, and not because funny things will stand the test of time. Like, clearly Beavis and Butthead resonated with a generation of people when it came out. And I think the real challenge is deconstructing our conception of what that show was and trying to imagine what it could be. And Mike Judge is a hilarious person. He's made so many deeply funny shows and movies that I would hope that he will also enlist some younger writers to make it relevant to their interests. But I'm at least cautiously optimistic and curious. I don't know, Rosie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that it's all, in both cases, I think it's about updating, and it's all about the writer's room. It's like, there are ways, I think Vanessa's point is super smart about that, like weird, absurdist humor. And I guess the idea of like screens, even though back then it was music videos, now it could be YouTube or TikTok, or there's ways you can do it. But I think it's really, my first thought was like really similar to Jay, where I'm just like, why? Like, I mean, a lot of times with reboots, I'm just kind of like, I would rather you just made an original show, especially when it comes to animation. But I do think there's a way that you could get really cool young writers, and you could play on this absurdist, and even like that, the millennial absurdism was there a little bit, and the generation below us has just like really capitalized on it. Because I always remember seeing this tweet that was like, if you want to understand millennial humor, just watch that Dear Sister sketch from SNL where they're just shooting each other and playing that Imogen Heap song over and over again from the OC. So it's kind of been there, and I love that idea that you're exploring this kind of absurdist, like really simplified slapstick, but with an extra level of weird. That could be really cool. But I think it's all about, it's the same with Clone High. Like, I think you need to reassess like who would be at the high school, and who are the historical figures who are important enough to see, and even then they were kind of breaking some stereotypes and stuff like that. But I think it's all about the writer's room and bringing it up to date and trying to, like Jay said, make it relevant while still speaking to the original audience, which I think is the biggest struggle with any reboot.
Yeah.
That brings me to our next question, and a show that I think absolutely deserves a new lease on life, and that's Clone High. For those who don't know, it was like a 13-episode super weird show about a bunch of clones of famous historical figures that were all sent to high school together to fulfill some sort of shadowy government plot. And, we had characters like JFK, Gandhi, Cleopatra, Joan of Arc, and Abraham Lincoln, all as their teen selves. So, Rosie, you brought up an interesting question there. What other clones do you think would belong in this modern version of the show?
Yeah, I don't have, like, I wasn't overly familiar with the show because I didn't have MTV in the UK and it wasn't on syndication anywhere that I saw it. But, I've checked it out, and I read a lot around it as well. There's loads of interesting conversations about like how Gandhi he was actually like kind of really radical for the time. Even though a white guy voiced him, he didn't have a racist accent, and that meant a lot to people. But also there was kind of ideas of how you represent someone like that, and even just the idea of fictionalizing real people. So I'll be really interested to see. Lord and Miller are like the kings of animation at the moment. Mm-hmm. So I believe that they can do something really interesting. I believe that they care about inclusion and cool stuff. So I'm most interested to see who would go to this Clone High. I don't really have an idea of who I would want to see, but I'm excited to see whoever they pick to kind of front this and reimagine who the historical figures of today are.
Cool. I mean, I can respect it. I think that's the other thing is it was truly the definition of a cult show. Like 13 episodes, like around like the early 2000s, and just kind of lost to the sands of time for many people. But I don't know, Jay, Vanessa, do you have any thoughts on this?
I was sitting here writing a list of people that are current, that have been like relevant in the eyes within the past 10 to 15 years that people have utilized that would be on there. Elon Musk for sure would be there because he'd be
I'm happy to punch down on him. That's a good
Kanye
point.
West would be there, of course. They would have to, because they would do the whole thing with the pink polos and the backpack. Michelle and Barack Obama would be there. Muhammad Ali, because now all of a sudden people are finding a lot of Muhammad Ali quotes. Bernie Sanders would be there because he'd be like a teacher. Bernie would be a teacher, and Ellen DeGeneres. These are off the top of my head that I just wrote.
They should hire you. That is like a really brilliant,
right?
So it's
a stressful class.
But that's the thing. You take these different figures. Like you have something with AOC where she's damn near the same age. Like right now, you'd be like, wait, what happened? She's still 25. Like what happened? Like something like that. And so it's really looking through the past 30, 40 years. You're not, because I don't think you can bring one or two from this legendary class, but you got to keep it more relevant, especially with this new generation you're trying to appease. That's the biggest thing. You can't have everybody like Gandhi. Like, because some people would be like, why do I need to know about Gandhi? If you're getting newer history, if you will.
Yeah, I think part of the issue is by taking these people that have been dead for hundreds and hundreds of years in many cases, like Cleopatra, for example, you're not going to get like a libel suit or someone from like the estate of Cleopatra is not going to be like, you must cease and desist this vicious But I don't know. I would be. Elon Musk has appeared as a parodic version of himself on Rick and Morty, so who's to say he wouldn't be down for something like this? But moreover, I love that a show like this is getting a new lease on life. And I'm curious what you folks think. Is there another show out there that you think deserves a like second go at it? Vanessa?
Again.
Oh, sorry, Jay.
Ren and Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy. I will always go off Ren and Stimpy because again, we have these wild new age cartoons. Ren and Stimpy would fit perfectly, or Cow and Chicken. One of the two of those.
God, I love Cow and Chicken.
Yeah, it's so good.
That was also like a time in animation where everything just felt so viscerally disgusting.
Yeah, and everything was gross.
Yeah. I remember like watching like the first episode of Rocko's Modern Life, and he starts picking his nose. And my parents are like, you can't watch this. This is a bad influence. You can't watch that Bart Simpson boy. He'll make you a bad person.
They used to show them in the UK, both Ren and Stimpy and Rocko's Modern Life, at like prime time, like 6-7 p.m. So it was a really different cultural experience than them being like Saturday morning shows.
Yeah,
which fits a lot when you actually watch them now, especially as adults. But my pick would be Invader Zim. I love that show so much, and I would love for Yonan to get a chance to do that again. They did the movie on Netflix; it did really well, and that's another show, that and SpongeBob. They kind of took the traditions of being disgusting and changed them a little bit, but kept them there. And I really love that show so much. So I would love to see that. Especially now, you could have it as a mature show if you wanted. You could still have it as a kids show. Like that would be my number one pick.
A mature SpongeBob. Yes.
I love SpongeBob.
I think one I would really love to get a second shot. It's one of my favorite shows, and it very much formed formatively like what my tastes are. And I think now there's more of an audience for it. Would be Courage the Cowardly Dog. I was a massive Courage the Cowardly Dog fan, and I was obsessed with like not just a form of like horror storytelling for kids and the fact that it kind of felt like a monster of the week, like anthology type show for kids, but they also use different types of new animation to make things legitimately scary. Like they're one of the earliest examples of CGI utilized to be unsettling. And now that anthology and horror, and even horror like directed towards a younger audience, is so much more widely accepted, I feel like Courage would land better now. And there are so many young, new, like great anthology type writers that can jump in and make really fun monsters of the week in a way that feels like X-Files or Buffy applied to like a fun cartoon setting.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, especially with this like newfound cultural passion for cryptids. Like that seems like ripe for the plucking for Courage the Cowardly Dog. Like, especially if you just tie it to local folklore too, that could be a really interesting spin on it.
Creepypasta became a thing in the time between Courage to now. We love that type of storytelling, so it just naturally goes together.
Awesome. Yeah, get the people who made Gravity Falls to reboot Courage.
Yes, there you go.
You just put life into me.
Best dream.
In the chat, we have Alex Hirsch saying Danny Phantom needs another go. That's a show that I never watched, but I will grant you your wish.
I got one more.
Yes?
Give me an upgraded Rugrats.
Yeah, I can see it. It needs to be done. That show is secretly very radical. Like, there's so much funny adult politics.
From them babies. From the babies.
They have an episode about like Angelica using the babies for indentured servitude, and the babies see as the means of production. And they don't cut Angelica out at the end. They just like allow her to be a part of it because they believe in a better world. It's so ridiculous because they're babies. They're funny babies. But no, that would be such a good show right now.
Well, let's move on a little bit to a show that generated zero controversy that I can think of. Everyone's favorite 2004 ABC drama, Lost. It also had a bit of a resurgence last week online when, in an interview with Collider, co-showrunner Damon Lindelof outlined his original plan to end the series after 3 seasons, as opposed to the 6 that we got. So I have a question for you folks. Were you obsessed with Lost when it came out, or are you one of the people who the obsessed tried and perhaps failed to recruit? Vanessa, let's start with you.
So, Lost has been a little lost on me. I've seen the pilot a million times, and it's an incredible pilot. It is an incredible pilot. But what happens with Lost is really similar to what happens with Game of Thrones, where I will talk about starting a series that's already been finished and maybe had like a bit of a contentious ending. And then I have so many folks that come at me with like, don't even bother, you're going to be disappointed, or there's so much input and media on the internet that's like already formed very decisive opinions on the finales that it almost makes like watching it now kind of disheartening, to where it's like, am I setting myself up for failure? And then the thought process keeps me from going further, even though I loved the pilot.
Yeah, that is a fascinating development between now and then, because the internet was still around then, but like not to the degree of constant media, capital D discourse, or just instant nuclear option hot takes where they're like, worst show of all time, don't waste your life. But like, I don't know. I think for me, like I was one of those people who was kind of let down by the finale at the time, but I wouldn't trade that experience for anything of the communal aspect of watching week to week, trying to unravel the mysteries with my friends. It was for me kind of like that first moment of prestige television in that kind of modern wave that we're in of these water cooler series. Like you had that with Breaking Bad, you had it with Game of Thrones, even like something like Mad Men. It's the kind of stuff that you want to talk about with people, partly because half the time it's so ridiculous. But I can see how it'd be discouraging to hop on a 6-season commitment when you have all these people instantly being like, just trying to tell you your opinion before you've been able to form it.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, Jay, Rosie, what do you guys think? Were you Lost fanatics, or was it also lost on you as it was on Vanessa?
I'm with Vanessa. Because I tried and I just was like, they're dead. That's all. Because you just watching it, you're just like, they're dead. Why don't we just admit it? I hate to be one of those people that was, because it just seems so obvious. Was like, they're dead. They're in purgatory. Why are we drawing this out? And then they hear Linda,
a polar bear.
Again, like, why? It never really sat for me, because I'm like, that's just like the show. What is it? Manifest. It's the same thing. It's like, you're dead. They're all dead. Like, why? It's one of those. It's easy to figure out what this is all about, instead of a real big like, yo, what's going on? You're like, they're dead. That's it. It's a Sixth Sense thing. When you just, after seeing the Sixth Sense, you're like, oh, you're dead, because it's easy now. You've seen it develop in a movie like that. Now you get it when you see it in TV tropes.
My feeling about Lost is very similar to both Vanessa and Jay, but for a far less critical or intelligent reason. I was maybe like 11 when Lost came out, and I remember when there was a big TV campaign. It felt very prestige TV. I still remember the adverts. They were really striking. It was all of them like on this island, but in like ballroom clothes, like next to the crashed airplane, and I was super stoked. I watched the first episode and I was really into it because I thought there were dinosaurs on the island, because the pilot includes all these kind of sounds, right? And at some point, maybe the end of the pilot or beginning of the second episode, you find out it's just some wisps. And I was just like, nope, I'm out, because I thought it was going to be dinosaurs. And then I just
always want dinosaurs.
I have to say, that is perhaps the most salient criticism of Lost that I've heard yet, is that there were no dinosaurs on the island. 0 out of 10 stars.
Yeah, and I've watched some of it since, and I have friends who really love it, and I'm stoked that it's and I think it's cool that we found out it was meant to end early, because I think a lot of the criticisms from people were that they felt like, even when I was a kid at school, I remember there being a rumor that it was going to end after 1 season, and that felt really radical at the time. And I think I'm happy that we know that that was originally the plan. But yeah, no dinosaurs, so I was out, and that was my story of Lost, my Lost fandom.
Damon Lindelof should have gone with dinosaurs. Also in the chat, Old Man Mikey says there's a conversation between Jack and his dad in the finale that says everything on the island happened. They weren't dead the whole time.
Oh,
well,
okay.
There you are, Jay.
This is why he's not young man Mikey. He has to make this point.
I mean, okay, but again, Lindelof said he wanted it to end after 3 seasons, and some people don't understand why that's a thing. I don't think there's nothing wrong with ending a show. Like,
that was a blessing.
Yeah,
if you end your show in your own way, that's the best option.
That's the best option when you go out on your own. Again, sometimes, because like even an article, if you got to drag something out, you lose its luster. You have to start making up stuff that doesn't really feel the same anymore. Let that have been 3 seasons. Everybody be like, oh my God, we need a Lost reboot. Nobody is talking about that now, really.
Thankfully, Lindelof, I think, learned that lesson, unfortunately, the hard way, but then he gave us The Leftovers and Watchmen, both of which seemingly ended on his terms.
Yep.
The creative team's terms. So at least there's that. I just want to move on to one other piece of TV news that had me both skeptical and super stoked, is that last week, Amazon and Bethesda made a surprise announcement that they're developing a Fallout television series with Westworld's Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. And we don't have a lot to say about this yet because it's still in development. We don't know a lot of details, but I'm a massive Fallout fan. I don't know about you folks, but what was your first thoughts on hearing this news? They were turning this post-apocalyptic RPG into a TV show.
Amazon is the only people who have enough money to make it. So I was like, they're the right people. You need a lot of money to make that show. So yeah, that's Amazon. They should be the ones to make it.
Vanessa?
I mean, when it comes to both Fallout and Westworld, such a big key point of it is crazy world building. I love Fallout, and some of the best parts of it are the worlds that are built around you. Like Fallout New Vegas is all about being able to like explore the ruins of not just this crazy city, but like seeing what was built on it after, like the gangs of the Elvises. And Westworld is a lot of the same, where it's making these great big universes, and it's such a focus on world building that I love Fallout. But my main concern is also bringing attention to creating interesting characters, because that is the biggest thing that's lost on me on both properties. Fallout being one that I'm a big fangirl of, but there's a lack of focus on creating memorable characters that you want to follow through these universes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they need to really look into their catalog and look at those like companion characters, for example, that really resonate with people. Like I'm blanking on his name. Nick, the like robot detective in Fallout 4, is a character that I was like, I want to know more about you. But there's other ones that I'm like, I don't want to continue your quest line. You're a boring person. And I think that that's the problem when you're taking an RPG that's all about you projecting yourself onto a player character and making all the choices, that you run the risk of not being able to recreate that glory and that fun, that sense of adventure, because you take away the element of choice when you're then adapting it for the screen, especially when you don't have a defined player character. Your character is just called the Vault Dweller or the Lone Wanderer. So I don't know. This might be just a larger issue with adapting video games for television in general, but what do you think? What do you think about that issue in particular, Jay?
That's what I was going to bring up. I didn't play Fallout, so I have so many friends who played it, but also had people who complained about it never loaded. So I was like, oh, will the series actually load? But again, I think that's the issue too with adapting video games that are RPGs where you control the character's destiny, because now you don't have the same feeling anymore. Somebody's destiny is already preset. And so it's like, yeah, you might be intrigued in it, but you're like, oh man, if I was playing it, I'd have made this choice, or I'd have did that, and so that's what's going to be taken away from it. Again, Amazon has the money to do this in any place, and it's streaming, so it's no real loss. You know what I'm saying? So take a chance.
Yeah, and I do feel like that it could stand a better chance to succeed on TV versus a feature film, because I mean they've been trying to make a Fallout movie for literally decades now, but when you have like, you can take your time with the story like you would in an RPG. An RPG is going to be like 60 to 100 hours of gameplay. You can drag this story out, not drag it out, or you can like let it unfold at a reasonable pace instead of trying to like cram that into a 2-hour experience that satisfies everyone.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of things that definitely satisfied everyone, let's move on to our Independence Day Resurgence trivia. Folks, with our news out of the way, it is time for our weekly edition of Nerdist News Trivia. We like to connect our trivia to truly the barest of threads, and because last weekend here in America we celebrated our independence, we are going to test our audience and our panel on the film Independence Day Resurgence, because testing them on Independence Day was too easy. We've all seen that so many times. If you've seen Independence Day Resurgence more than once, I have questions for you.
Yep.
All right. Do you have a pen, pencil, or crayon, piece of paper? Whiteboard of some sort? All right. Folks, let's get into it. Question number 1, multiple choice. Let's start with an easy one. Which of these actors did not reprise their role in the sequel? A, Bill Pullman, B, Jeff Goldblum, C, Will Smith, or D, Vivica A. Fox? A, Bill Pullman, B, Jeff Goldblum, C, Will Smith, or D, Vivica A. Fox? Which actor or actress did not reprise their role in the sequel? All right. Are we all locked in? We got our answers?
Yes.
Okay, let's see them. What do we got? Oh my goodness. I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is, so you are right. Will Smith was the only one not to return. Bill Pullman played a major part in this. So
you see, I wrote it's a guess.
Yes, I feel you. That's kind of how this movie felt.
He's the only one I can remember being in it, because I have had a lifelong deep crush on Bill Pullman.
Yeah, he's a handsome man. Makes a great president.
Oh my God, the movie is about Will Smith being dead and then his son like takes his place or something. Oh, so of course Will Smith's not in it. I think that's what Independence Day Resurgence is about.
It's a
Will Smith dead in the movie?
It's a resurgence of him being dead, and this time he's not back as a helpful ghost.
And he's not kicking aliens and saying he could have been at a barbecue.
Yeah, they just didn't want to pay him half the movie's budget to appear in it. All right, let's move on to number 2. It's another multiple choice. Even though the film did not perform well at the box office, which movie did Independence Day Resurgence beat in worldwide ticket sales the same year it was released? A. Kung Fu Panda 3, B. Star Trek Beyond, C. La La Land, or D. Jason Bourne?
That's a good answer, that ringtone.
Man.
All right, we're just going to go
A.
ahead.
Kung Fu Panda 3, B. Star Trek Beyond, C. La La Land, or D. Jason Bourne?
I feel like Kung Fu Panda slapped though.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kung Fu Panda sound like it was out here killing with kids. Like,
Yeah.
All right, do we have our answers?
Yeah.
That's the kind of confidence I love to hear. Okay. Wow, Vanessa, you must love this movie. It is Star Trek Beyond.
it really beat out Star Trek Beyond?
Star Trek Beyond.
Vanessa, you're a trivia icon.
Wait, no, first of all, no, hold on. Wait a second.
It's
Wait,
at the worldwide box office. Worldwide.
yeah, that's why I put Jason Bourne.
Bourne.
That's why I put Jason Bourne.
Everybody loves them some Matt Damon.
See, it's because Jason Bourne is the ultimate, like, I don't know, what do you want to see? First date movie.
Ah.
Uh-huh.
And then you got La La Land for like everyone who's like moms are like, I want to see a movie this one time a year, but also like people that are like, okay, Oscar contention. And you got Kung Fu Panda 3 for the kids. So where does that leave Star Trek Beyond?
But Star Trek, like, the movies are good, and they had a lot of critical acclaim. I feel bad as somebody that used to be on the movie trivia Schmodown. Okay,
It's okay. This was a rarely picked category.
Okay.
All right. Number 3, another multiple choice. The production for Independence Day Resurgence had to stop for a full week because of what reason? A. Actors walking out. B. Jeff Goldblum put on a week-long concert. C. Military involvement. Or D. Ran out of money. So why did the film have to stop for a full week? A. Actors walking out. B. Jeff Goldblum's week-long concert. C. Military involvement. Or D. They ran out of money.
Get one of these right, I swear to God.
All right. Are we all locked in? Let's see those answers for this important question.
I'm playing wild card.
I'm also
All
going.
right.
I picked
Vanessa,
the same answer as Vanessa.
bad news. It was not because of the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra. Jay,
That's the name.
they ran out of money. They ran out of money.
Classic.
They spent it all on Jeff Goldblum's week-long concert. All right. This next one, hopefully a little simpler. True or false? The studio paid Dean Devlin, the writer of the first movie, a large sum of money to write a sequel right after the success of the first film. But he returned the money after deciding the script wasn't good enough narratively. True or false? Dean Devlin wrote an Independence Day sequel and returned the money because he didn't think it was a good enough script. And then imagine that script compared to the Independence
Geostorm.
Right. Oh, Geostorm.
And Bad Samaritan, if you haven't seen that.
Was that movie where they were like, hey, we got Gerard Butler under contract for another movie. Do we have anything for him real quick?
I am mad at Geostorm, a movie I paid real human dollars to see opening weekend because it was just a bunch of Skype conversations and not enough Geostorm.
Mm-hmm.
It is worth watching again though, because they had to like wait 2 years between when they shot most of the movie. So throughout the movie, Jared Butler just looks completely different at loads of different times. I'm like a weird Dean Devlin fan. He made this movie called Bad Samaritan with David Tennant and the kid from the Misfits, that Misfits show, the UK show. It's about like a serial killer. It's so bad, but I've seen it like 3 times at the movie theater.
All right. I know what I'm putting on tonight.
Yeah, you have to.
But in the meantime, folks, show me your answers.
Dean Devlin.
Yes, that is true.
I knew it.
Yes.
I knew only the man who made Geostorm could have given back a massive amounts of money for a script not being good. That's just
that specific brain.
Can you imagine being that person being like, listen, I appreciate what's in my bank account. However, here's the check for that exact amount you put in because I can't do this. I can't be a part.
I will say I respect him for doing that, even though he probably already has more money than I will ever see in my life from the first one.
Me too, but I'm confused because didn't they pay him to write the script and then he gave the money back because the script wasn't good enough? So like, was he talking about his own script?
Yeah, I think it just didn't pass muster. Like he had to wait a certain amount of time to get inspired. He needed to wait for that creative resurgence. Anyway, moving on. This one's a fill in the blank. In the film, the Earth Space Defense Program has a station on Earth, the Moon, Mars, and Rhea. Rhea is the second largest moon of blank. I will give you a hint. The answer is not Pullman. Rhea is the second largest moon of blank. All right. Do we have our guesses? Rosie, that is incorrect. The answer is in fact Saturn. So
Titan's the biggest one, right?
Right. Yep. Titan's the biggest one.
Yes, and Saturn is the 9th largest moon in our solar system. So fun moon fact for you. All right, moving right along, we got another multiple choice. Which organization teamed up with 20th Century Fox for the marketing for recruitment purposes? A, the US military, B, NASA, C, SpaceX, or D, the Center for UFO Studies? Which organization teamed up with 20th Century Fox for marketing for recruitment purposes? A, the military, B, NASA, C, SpaceX, or D, the Center for UFO Studies? All right. Do we have our answers locked in? Let's see them, folks. That is correct. The U.S. military.
I remember some of the commercials.
Shockers.
I remember some of the commercials. They were like, "We got to fight aliens, but here on the home front." You like, no.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there's like a rule where if you want to use anything like a tank or anything that's a real military thing, you have to team up with them to allow them to market anyway. That's
Yeah,
like
Transformers did that, right?
Yeah, Captain
Mhm.
Marvel.
Oh, they did. They loved the Air Force ones.
Oh, they made a whole Captain Marvel thing, and they were like, "You can be a feminist who kills other people in other countries." Superheroes.
All right, let's move on to this next one. It's a bit of a change of pace. It's a draw off. You're going to be drawing something for me. So the
Okay.
aliens in this movie, they're large, they're pretty terrifying, but in this challenge, you have 30 seconds or so to draw your best alien. Points will be rewarded based on creativity. Don't be intimidated because Jay is a talented artist.
Mine's a little uggo.
All right, everyone is hard at work here. I just need some sort of like Bob Ross style commentary, drawing a
Happy little trees.
happy little claw.
Trees. Just
All
enjoying these
right.
happy little Sharpie fumes.
I'm going to give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Was that 30 seconds? I don't know. Time is meaningless. Let's see what you got, everybody. Jay, let's start with you. Oh, wait, no, Vanessa. I saw that. Let's put that back.
Yours is so good.
This is Glorp.
Glorp. You didn't even get a name. I love it.
Cute.
That's very cute. Jay?
I was just really going for it. Like,
Whoa.
Ooh.
I
I
love
like-
her.
I like it. I like all the appendages, like the little tendrils on the face. Rosie, what do you have for us?
Mine's it's like a T-Rex that's shooting lasers out of its eyes. Kind of like Mechagodzilla, I guess, who's allegedly an alien through canon. So that's my get out. This is just the only thing I can draw.
I'm getting like Godzilla meets Trogdor vibes in a very good. Well, I've thought about it, and as a licensed art professional, a art sommelier, I am going to have to award it to my main person, Glorp.
Yeah, Glorp.
I'd have gave it to Glorp too.
Yeah, me too.
I like lore. He has a name. That's already lore. I need More Glorp info.
Glorp canon has been established here today.
Exactly. All right, moving on. We got a couple more questions. True or false, the cast despised Jeff Goldblum on set because of his acting process and his constant critique of the other actors. True or false?
Yeah, so you're not really emoting in the scene.
His giant banana fingers. All right, folks. What do you think? True or false here? Let's see those answers. All right. Vanessa, what do you got? The answer is false. Rosie, you got this. Jeff Goldblum would often lead jam sessions or act out different plays with the cast in between takes, so he seemed pretty beloved. All right, moving right along. Question number 9. How is Liam Hemsworth's character related to Bill Pullman's character, President Whitmore? A, his son, B, his grandson, C, his son-in-law, or D, his nephew? A, son, B, grandson, C, son-in-law, D, nephew. All right. Show me those sweet, sweet letters. The answer is C, son-in-law. Rosie, you get the point.
Armageddon style.
Yes.
I knew it.
I don't want to miss a friend. sorry.
I wish it was. I just want to watch Armageddon again. That's what I want.
Just
All
need to-
right, now, folks, we have the final question. True or false? In the film, President Whitmore suffers from APRC, which stands for Alien Physical Remedial Confusion. True or false? In the movie, President Whitmore suffers from a condition called APRC that stands for Alien Physical Remedial Confusion. It's a common condition, often overlooked by the news media. Hard to diagnose. All right, folks, show me those answers. You're all wrong, unfortunately.
Hey, it sounds like something would be true for real.
He does have a condition called APRC, but it stands for Alien Psychic Residual Condition. All us true Resurge heads know that. All right, so I'm trying to get a transmission from the Earth Defense Force to see about the scores. They're hurriedly tabulating them right now. Okay, folks, this was a very close match.
This shouldn't be.
But the answer is Glorp and Vanessa won the day. They reign supreme. Congratulations. You are the Independence Day master and our winner of Nerdist News Trivia this week. And now it's time for our 30-second soapbox. This is the time you can get whatever you've had on your chest off your chest. Jane, no, get that camera off the screen. You're not helping. All right, Vanessa, since you won, you're going to be up first. This is your 30-second soapbox. Off you go.
Awesome. You can find me on all forms of social media under @NestBritain. If you have cable, or you can download it on Amazon or iTunes, I'm on El Rey Nation every Wednesday. We've got like 100 episodes, and we just talk about movies, comics, gaming, and more. The thing that I really want to get into and waste the rest of my time on is I've really gotten into this YouTube channel called Dancing Bacons, where they basically just go to different night markets in different countries or automated restaurants and vending machines. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because I haven't touched a vending machine in like 4 months, but it's been real cathartic. Can't recommend it enough. It's basically my new lo-fi beats to chill with, except it's just a guy ordering sandwiches from a vending machine, and it's been soothing and healing.
I think soothing and healing is something we all need right now. I'm going to check that out. Awesome. Jay, it's your turn on the soapbox. What do you have for us?
Twitter, Instagram @Mr. J Washington, MRJAY. You should know how to spell Washington. You really should. Get your life together. Matt Titan Podcast, Blurs in the Hood, every Tuesday live. Myself and Winston A. Marshall. It's about an hour, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 on the East. We just talk about everything, have fun. And since Vanessa's bringing up YouTube channels, allow me to say one that I'm really into. It's called Yoga with Adriene. Yes. I found myself doing yoga throughout this quarantine. I know what you're thinking. How does he do it with those shoulders? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting my flexibility on. I bought my own yoga mat, yoga block, and guess what? Yoga socks. I can highly recommend Yoga with Adriene on YouTube.
That is she should honestly pay you for that, or you need to disclose it to the FCC, because that was a stirring recommendation. Also, everyone should be doing yoga. We're sitting at these chairs all day. You need to stretch it out. I highly back that. All right, Rosie, it is your turn on the soapbox. What do you got for us?
I'm Rosie Marks, Marx, on all social media. And I was not sure what to include for my soapbox, but now these two have really inspired me. So my calming, relaxing thing that I've been watching is there is a Japanese news channel called NHK, which you can watch on broadcast, or you can go to nhk3.com. I highly recommend. They have a Hayao Miyazaki documentary on there. It's 4 parts. It's absolutely incredible. Spans like 10 years. But the thing I've been watching the most is a show called Trails to Oishi. And basically they just go and try delicious food. So they have an episode about delightful breads that people decorate. And they have an episode about how to make pickles. And it is the most wonderful, calming, chilled out, delicious show. So I would recommend that.
That sounds phenomenal, and now I'm suddenly starving. As for my recommendation, if you want something to chill out, Google slow TV. It's people just put a camera on a train going through Norway or something. It's pretty chill. Anyway, that's it for today's Nerdist News Talks Back. Thank you so much, Jay, Vanessa, Rosie, for joining me today, and thank you to all of us. Thank you from all of us to you joining at home. We really appreciate it. And with that, also be sure to check out tomorrow's Nerdist News. We're going to be breaking down how the new Black Widow is going to be affecting Phase 4 of the MCU and beyond. Then we'll see you back here next Monday for a brand new episode of Nerdist News Talks Back at 2 p.m. live Pacific on Nerdist and Geek and Sundry's YouTube channels, as well as Geek and Sundry's Twitch channel. Until then, stay safe, be healthy, wear a mask, and have a great day. Bye-bye.